Hey everyone, Chang here and welcome to my channel. Now for today's video, I'm going to teach you how to be a B- math student. There's plenty of videos that promises how to be an A+ student, pass with flying colors. Not necessarily the case for this video, just a B-. Now you're going to see what I mean in a little bit. In a previous video, I mentioned that I want to make several videos, if not an entire video series, of different studying strategies that I wish I knew when I was first studying math, right? I find them to be more effective now as I implement them, test them out, and use them in learning different topics. So here's the thing though. It's not necessarily only for math. You can definitely generalize these strategies for any study that you would like. For today's video, we're going to focus on the Pareto principle. If you guys haven't heard of it already, it's best known as the 80-20 rule. Now, there is two ways of viewing this particular rule. The first one, which sucks, is the idea that 80% of the work will only produce 20% of the results, right? That's okay. It's not very encouraging. The flip side, however, is the one that we really want to focus on. If 80% of something only produced 20% of the work or result, right? Then the reverse of it, there are 20% of some specific work that can produce 80% of the other results. That's what we want to focus on, right? That will help us become both efficient and effective in terms of studying. So that's the Pareto principle, and that's why I say the B-, because guess what? If you can get 80% of the result, you're a B- student already. Now, of course, it's not necessarily guaranteed it's always going to be 80 and 20. The ratio might be different, but the concept still holds. There are going to be specific small sets of generalized fundamental categories that if you master them, you understand the bulk of the entire study. So I wanted to emphasize this because guess what? In the first video, I mentioned that you had to be exposed to a specific topic at least 3 times. It could be from the same source or different sources. Each and every one at a time, you have to ask yourself or have a different focus on what you're trying to get out of it. Well, I'm not going to go into details on this video. After you have understand the relationship of all the different results, you can look through and try to isolate and figure out what are the 20% of the things that I need to know to understand 80% of the topic. So I want to show you guys how ineffective it is if we try to go through every single concept, every single topic. This is chapter 1 from a specific math textbook. This is Algebra and Trigonometry. Now, when I was looking through the table of content, there was 4 big sections for chapter 1. The real numbers, the real lines, algebra of the real numbers, inequalities, intervals, and absolute value. That's the 4 big sections. Now, each and every one of these big sections are broken down into subsections. And just briefly skimming through, I counted at least 15 subsections. And then with 15 subsections, there's a total of at least 24 plus concepts, right? Those little highlighted boxes that says you need to memorize these different formulas or these different proofs to truly understand the math. At least 24 plus of those. And guess what? There's at least 11 chapters just from skimming through it. Okay? So think about how many stuff they really want you to know, to memorize, all those different formulas, those different concepts. It's not a productive use of your time. It's going to take forever for you to truly understand every single one. So using this, we can highlight and focus on these specific ones, the fundamentals, so that we can cut out a lot of those specialized circumstances, specialized cases that we can basically study if we have extra time, but if we don't, we know we're gonna do well on the exam or whenever we need it, right? So here's the thing. Let's think about all these concepts, the real numbers, real lines, algebra of the real numbers, inequalities, intervals, and absolute values, and all these different, subsections. Basically, what you're working with is number groups, right? So you got to understand different fundamental number groups, especially since they're talking about real, that's the most generalized form. So you have to understand number groups. You have to understand, all the different basic property, distributive, commutative, associative, commutative, I'm going to shorthand these, associative, and of course different operations, right? Because you're working with real numbers, you're on a line, and then you're doing the plus, the minus, the multiply, the divide, And then of course you're working with what else? Inequalities, intervals, and absolute value, which actually is not all that different. It's just comparison, right? You have your greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to, equal, and of course not equal. That's all it is. And then of course, since they're talking about real number lines and you're talking about potential absolute value, you need to understand graphing of them. Okay, cool. So how many is that? Well, I mean, we can group these together, or if you wanted to count them as individually, that's your choice. Number groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, it's close to the subsection, but I'm pretty sure those aren't the subsection that they were talking about, right? But if you focus on these guys right here, then all of a sudden you basically have the fundamentals, the foundation of understanding everything of these, the 15 plus subsection and the 24 plus concepts. Are you going to know every single specialized case? No, but if you have an exam and you know the fundamental of this, you know the bulk of this study. That means if you have an exam on chapter 1, you're going to do fairly well. You can specialize if you have extra time, but overall, guess what? You're not going to fail if you become very proficient in these generalized fundamental category. So that's what I really want you guys to understand with this Pareto principle for each and every one of the chapters and the subject as a whole, right? There's going to be tons of things that they believe is super important. Everything you need to memorize, everything you need to know. That's not the case, because guess what? Skimming the book, there is like 2-3 sections on how to use a calculator and calculate things. There's another section on just straight up word problems. Yes, they're useful. Yes, it's cool if you understand it, but guess what? If you don't have the time, which a lot of us don't, right? Those are very minute subsection, subcategory that isn't the fundamentals. If you have this, you can actually, if you given the amount of time, like extra time, figure out some of these more specialized circumstances, specialized case, right? So that's what I really wish I knew. So for today's video, once again, Pareto principle. There is 20% of stuff inside each chapter, inside each topic that serves as its foundation, its fundamental. If you know those, you are already 80% of the way there. Afterwards, then you have that extra 20%. We're sad to say you're gonna have to put 80% of effort to get that extra 20%, right? So there you go, Pareto principle, how to be a B- student instead of an A+. All right, so just out of curiosity, after I ended the video, I wanted to check out chapter 2 and see how many different subsections there are. And there's 26 different subsections, and this is all focused on the geometry aspect and how it can tie to algebra and trigonometry, which, well, you know, that's a lot. Plus, think about if there's 26 different subsections, I can't imagine how much concepts they really want you to memorize and understand to be proficient in that particular chapter. So, once again, here's the Pareto principle. It's to be efficient and effective. Are you going to understand everything? No, you are not. But guess what? By understanding the fundamentals, you can build up your knowledge if necessary. If not, already you have the foundation. You understand 80% of it. And guess what? Most of the time, that's enough. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.